Hello students, welcome to weekly current affairs. If you are able to hear me properly, just type yes so that I know that I'm able to, my voice is reaching you guys. Just let me know guys if my voice is audible to everyone. Okay, thank you so much. So today we will be discussing the economics weekly current affairs. So as you can see, there were quite a few headlines that were really important, or some news that was really important from our economics papers, that is GS3 paper. It was important from prelims as well and from the mains perspective as well. So we're gonna take these topics and discuss them elaborately and holistically so that you guys have a proper understanding that what is in these topics. So let's start with the index, the topics that we would be covering today. The first topic is related to hydrogen fuel cells. The first topic is related to hydrogen fuel cells. It has a component of economics and a little bit of environment as well. I will let you know कि किस तरीके से environment और economics से mixture से इससे क्वेश्चन फ्रेम किया जा सकता है from an mains point of view as well as pre point of view. Then we have to discuss this human development report. This human development report is very important. Every year it is released and we have to analyze it. What is new this time? What new has happened for the first time in 1990? For the first time in 1990, since 1990, what the first time this thing has happened. So there's something new has happened in this HDR report. Now, the third topic is related to dwindling wage growth. This is directly related to our GDP. I will let you know how it is directly related to GDP and we will try to conclude a relationship between GDP and dwindling wage growth. And the last topic for today would be broken rice exports ban. The last topic would be broken rice exports ban. Recently, government has banned the export of broken rice. So we would be dealing with the scenario, what is the significance of broken rice and what government has taken various steps that to stop the ban of broken rice. Is it clear guys? So I'm going to start with the first topic. The first topic is related to, let's look at the headline. Switching lanes in electric vehicle race amid lithium headwinds, India sets sight on hydrogen fuel cells. Now this topic is very important. This topic is very important. Before I start with the presentation thing, I would like to brief you related to electric vehicles and related to this aspect in a short, we could say in a short description. So let's say we all know Paris Agreement was a landmark agreement in the history if we talk about climate change. Every country declared their INDCs, that is intended nationally determined contributions. What they would be doing, the nations and the state governments, they what would be doing in order to set their goals to curb the greenhouse gas emissions and tackle the problem of climate change. So when I talk about every country declared their INDCs, every country when they declared their INDCs, they set their targets on renewable energy. They set their targets on renewable energy. India has also certain targets related to this aspect. Plus, India has also target related to net zero carbon emissions. India has also certain targets related to net zero carbon emissions. So, in order to push and in order to achieve these two things, there we have to shift towards electric vehicles. I think everyone would agree on this, that we need electric vehicles in order to basically achieve our goals of net zero carbon emissions and renewable energy. Now the thing here comes, electric vehicles work on lithium ion batteries, that we know. But what is the problem? What is the problem related to lithium ion batteries if we consider the case of India that we are thinking and pondering to shift towards hydrogen fuel cells, that it could be seek as an alternative where we can use hydrogen fuel cells in order to move towards electric vehicles. So our target is to move towards electric vehicles. This is an option that is available. We want to make headwinds into this hydrogen fuel cells. We want to make headwinds into these hydrogen fuel cells in order to achieve these targets that have been set up by us in the Paris Agreement. Now, if we talk about hydrogen fuel cells, we know we had a national hydrogen mission that was launched last year. So quite in the simpler terms, I can say that if we use these hydrogen fuel cells, we are in sync with the policy that we have already made last year related to National Hydrogen Mission. So this is the brief background that I wanted to tell you, that this topic, yes, it is from economics, but it has an environmental angle as well. In UPSC, you don't get questions directly based on economics. You would get a mixture that would be of economics or environment or geography or environment. So you have to think and build your explanation and build your study upon that. So let's come to the topic. Let's say India's first indigenously, this is very, very important, developed hydrogen fuel cell technology bus that uses hydrogen and air to generate electricity on board has been developed jointly by CSIR and Pune-based automotive software company KPIT Limited. So we have developed basically a hydrogen fuel cell technology bus. So this is quite an achievement that has been made possible by this Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. This is a direct question that could be asked in your prelims. So it is very, very important. This statement is very, very important if we talk about prelims. Now coming to the next part. Now we can see that electric vehicles are the future if we have to set up our targets. But when I talk about electric vehicles, there is something we can say a problem related to the usage of lithium ion batteries. There is certain problem related to the usage of lithium ion batteries. So what is that problem? First, the thing is demand. This is very, very important. The demand for lithium ion batteries from India is projected to grow at a CAGR of over 30% by volume up to 2030, translating into over 50,000 tons of lithium requirement for the country to manufacture only EV batteries. So can you see the context here? Here we are talking about the demand. If we have to use it in electric vehicles, the demand is gonna grow over, we can say 30% by volume up to 2030. That is a very big amount. If I am talking in terms of, let's say, numbers, it is a very, very big amount. But the problem lies in its concentration. How the problem lies in its concentration? Let's try to look at 90% of this global lithium whose demand is to increase in the coming future is concentrated in Chile, Argentina and Bolivia, alongside Australia and China, would lead to more dependence on imports from small pool of countries. See, this is the game of demand and supply. If our demand is increasing, because demand is increasing, we have seen here that it is going to grow over by 2030. So our supply is limited because it is concentrated in only few regions, as 90% is located in Chile, Argentina, Bolivia. So we can say that supply is less, demand is more. So it's gonna put pressure on our import bill. If it's gonna put pressure on our import bill, obvious baat hai that our balance of payments would rise in deficit side, because we would be having a more current account deficit as compared to a surplus, because our import bill is gonna rise. Because the coming future we can see that is of electric vehicles. because they contribute less compared to, we can say, greenhouse gas emissions. So this thing is very, very important. We have talked about the technology that hydrogen fuel cell has been introduced, and there is a problem with lithium ion batteries depending upon its demand and its supply, right? Now let's look at the push towards hydrogen. Yes, I have discussed that just lithium ion batteries have certain problems. Why we are pushing towards hydrogen? This includes a national hydrogen mission and a roadmap for using hydrogen as an energy source. This is very, very important. Let's look at this hydrogen fuel cells in context of National Hydrogen Mission. National Hydrogen Mission was an initiative to make the best use of hydrogen, which is one of the most abundant elements on earth. The main goal of mission is to take advantage of this cleaner fuel. Yes, on the 75th Independence Day, the Prime Minister of India announced the hydrogen policy. Under this policy, India is targeting 3/4 of its hydrogen from renewable sources by 2050. Now this thing is very, very important. We are targeting 3/4 of hydrogen from renewable sources by 2050. This mission will also help to reach sustainable climate goals. Now this is the important aspect that I wanted you guys to relate it to. We have also our sustainable development goals, plus we have an contributions that we have to make under, that we have decided to make under Paris Agreement. If we have to achieve those things, we have to think towards going towards this hydrogen. And our National Hydrogen Mission that was launched last year is in total resonance with the upcoming technology that is coming. Hydrogen is considered a potential fuel that can replace fossil fuels in the future. India's target for 2022 is to generate 175 gigawatt of renewable energy. ये पहले टारगेट था, and 450 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2030. And this mission is expected to boost this process. This mission will emphasize the hydrogen from clean energy sources. Now these things are very, very important. Now we have discussed the problem with the lithium ion batteries, India moving towards National Hydrogen Mission, and in line with it, India is going towards a new cleaner technology that is based on hydrogen fuel cells. The major industry that hydrogen has the potential of transforming is transportation. See, if we are using hydrogen, where is the major contribution that it could make or major transformation that it could lead to? It is basically transportation. As you can see, it contributes 1/3 of all greenhouse gas emissions. Now this point is very, very important. 1/3 हिस्सा ये green gas house emissions में कर रहा है, and where hydrogen is being viewed as a direct replacement of fossil fuels with the specific advantages over the traditional electric vehicles. Are you guys getting this point? The storyline and the correlation and why we are moving towards hydrogen fuel cells. Because yes, lithium ion batteries are an option, but their concentration is very, very less. That could harm us. As hydrogen is easily available, we can tap the potential of hydrogen energy and use it for the purpose of transportation. ठीक है guys? Now, if we talk about hydrogen as a fuel source, now this thing is very, very important. These type of questions usually come in prelims. Prelims में ये questions पूछे जाते हैं कि हाइड्रोजन गैस की अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं तो वो किस तरीके से, अगर हम फ्यूल सेल की बात करें तो कैसे वर्क करता है. सो ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड एंड हैव अ व्यू पॉइंट ऑन दिस. The most common element in nature, however, is not found freely. Hydrogen exists only when combined with other elements and has to be extracted from naturally occurring compounds like water, which is a combination of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. सिंपल सी बात है, साइंटिफिक बात है कि हाइड्रोजन सिंपल अवेलेबल नहीं है. इट इज बेसिकली इन द फॉर्म ऑफ कंपाउंड्स, combination of hydrogen and oxygen atoms. Although hydrogen is a clean molecule, the process of extracting it is energy intensive. This could be one of the drawback. Yes, it is a clean molecule, but the extracting process is energy intensive. Try to remember these points. This would help you a lot. The two most common methods of producing hydrogen are gas reforming and electrolysis. Now this is very, very important. This could be asked directly in your prelims. The methods for producing hydrogen are gas reforming and electrolysis. Now let's look at these two processes. The thermal process for hydrogen production typically involves steam reforming, a process in which steam reacts with hydrocarbon fuel to produce hydrogen and accounts for about 95% of all hydrogen produced. So a question can come in the prelims where it talks about that this reforming method is the major method through which majority of this hydrogen is produced. So that would be the correct statement, as 95% is being produced by this method. And if I talk about electrolysis, water is split into oxygen and hydrogen through a process called electrolysis. This is a simple process that we known as electrolysis, कि जहां पे हम water को split कर देते हैं into oxygen and hydrogen. Now this is very, very important because we have seen in previous years that questions come like these. Questions come like these related to how the hydrogen is produced, which is the most, we can say, most used method to extract the hydrogen. Clear, guys? Now we have discussed why lithium ion had some hurdles, batteries. There are hurdles if we have to produce hydrogen as well. What are those hurdles? Globally, there were under 25,000 hydrogen fuel cell vehicles on the road at the end of 2020. This is a very important figure. By comparison, the number of electric cars was 8 million. Means out of 8 million, only 25,000 were run on the road. Were basically hydrogen fuel cells. The biggest hurdle to the adoption has been a lack of fueling station infrastructure. Now try to remember this point. There is lack of fueling station infrastructure. There were fewer than 500 operational hydrogen stations in the world in 2021, most in Europe, followed by Japan, South Korea, and some in North America. See, fueling stations is a problem because there is a lack of infrastructure. We are not talking here about India, but we are talking here about the developed countries where this technology is already being deployed. But there also we have seen there are only 500 operational hydrogen stations. Another thing that is of importance is safety. Scaling up the technology and achieving critical mass remains a bigger challenge. So this was a very important topic from your prelims as well as mains point of view. If you have to write down the hurdles in lithium ion batteries, the problems that we could face while using hydrogen fuel cells, and what is the scope of hydrogen fuel cell if we talk about achieving our goals and moving towards electric vehicles. Is this point or the topic clear to everyone? Shall I move forward to the next topic? Okay, guys. Now the next topic is very, very important, that is Human Development Report. Can anyone tell me quickly who releases this Human Development Report? Hanji, write down your answers if you have in your comment box. I would love to hear it. And who was the first person who proposed this HDR? Okay, so you guys have a little idea that it was basically Mahbubul Haq who had given this idea of Human Development Report. So certain things have happened in this Human Development Report. Yes, it comes every year. So what is special in this edition of Human Development Report? Let's try to check it out. The last week, United Nations Development Program released its latest Human Development Report. So first of all, Human Development Report is released by United Nations Development Program. Ordinarily, it is enough to look at countries' score on the Human Development Index and compare it to the global average and the score of some other comparable countries. See, we talk about, let's see. See, when we have to talk in terms of growth, we talk about GDP numbers or we talk about national income numbers. But when I have to talk about development, then it is a more qualitative concept to describe whether a country is growing or not. That is based on the indicators of like HDI, Human Development Index, Gender Inequality Index, Multidimensional Poverty Index, and all those things. This is more of a quantitative number. This is more of a qualitative concept. It will not tell actually the people are growing or not. It would try to somehow indicate that whether people are growing in terms of education, in terms of health, or in terms of standard of living. So development has always been a better concept as compared to growth of like numbers like GDP, because it gives us a true picture of an economy. So let's try to look this now. HDI is a composite of three broad parameters: longevity related to health, education, and income per capita, that is related to standard of living. We will discuss what is HDI, how much, which index constitutes HDI. But this year's HDR is quite different because for the first time, this thing is very important. In its history, the HDR has been compiled since 1990. So first of all, it has been compiling HDR reports since 1990. The global HDI value has declined 2 years in a row. This has never happened. Global HDI value has declined 2 years in a row, erasing the gains of preceding 5 years. This is the most important, or the most, we could say, important report that has come out from this HDR. Now we will try to look at the HDR. See, this is basically we talk about projected versus actual. ये हमारा index है. If we talk about index, our index was to grow like this. It was like projected. But due to COVID-19 pandemic, it has been decreasing from the last 2 years. Now, these things are very, very important. When you are writing your mains exam, let's say you have to talk about effects of COVID pandemic. So, you can draw graphs like these on the development part, how it has affected the HDI index value. You can draw these type of graphs in order to elaborate your answer. That would give you a more positive outlook in your answer, and your answer will be more enriched. Now, coming to the next part, first of all, we will try to look what is HDI. It has 3 dimensions: long and healthy life, knowledge, and decent standard of living. So, what are the indicators in it? First is life expectancy at birth. This is very, very important. 4 things are very, very important when we calculate HDI. First one is life expectancy at birth. Second is expected years of schooling, mean years of schooling, and GNI per capita. This is very, very important. Standard of living is being measured by GNI per capita in purchasing power parity. These things are very, very important. GNI in terms of purchasing power parity. So, we come across 3 index from this: life expectancy index, education index, and GNI index. And when we calculate their geometric mean, we get the value of HDI. This is the concept of HDI. There are 3 dimensions, 4 indicators, 3 index, and the geometric mean of these indices that lead us to the value of HDI. Now, we will try to look at some figures. As you can see, this year India's rank is 132. HDI score is 0.633. Compare it to world, where the HDI score is average 0.732. Let's compare it with China. It is 0.768. And when we compare it to Switzerland, that is number 1 in this HDI report, it is at staggering 0.962. This is the value of HDI. It varies between 0 to 1. Let's look at the other factors as well. Life expectancy 67. I think there is some problem related to it. Okay. Yes, we have come back to the. So, India had a major growth during this period. Now, let's look at the growth period from 2010 to 2021. It was only 0.88. this thing is very, very important. There are certain things that you need to know and put it in your answers. These are the things you can put in your answers. These are the things you can use while writing your answers. It will give you more value enrichment. Okay, guys. Now there is also one, we can say total global indicators, or we can say globally how we will compare each country, and let's look at the rank of India. In 2021 it was 132, in 2020 it was 130. Our HDI value is 0.633. The top 5 countries are Switzerland, Norway, Iceland, Hong Kong and Australia. Bottom 5, South Sudan, Chad, Niger, CAR and Burundi. So we are basically very, we can say, if we talk about India, they are lagging so much in behinds of HDI numbers. These are the true development numbers, and we need to do more if we have to survive and grow more. Clear hai guys? Now let's move to the next topic. This topic is very, very, we can say, important to understand. There is a thing called dwindling wage growth. If we talk about wage growth, I am talking here in terms of households. Wage growth for households. Can anyone tell me how in our country GDP is measured? How in our country GDP is measured? I would welcome if you would write in your comments box. I would be obliged. How GDP is measured in our country? The most common method that is being used is expenditure method. There are certain indicators when I calculate GDP from expenditure method. Let's say it is private final consumption expenditure, government consumption expenditure, gross fixed capital formation plus net exports, right? This is a very small topic. I just wanted to make something understand to you guys. Now this private final consumption expenditure, we can say it is, let's say it is household expenditure, the expenditure that is being done by us guys. Let's say we have to buy a car. This type of expenditure is basically private final consumption expenditure. And would you believe it guys, this is one of the main drivers of Indian economy. हमारी Indian economy में it is one of the main drivers because it contributes to nearly from 55 to 60% of our GDP numbers. हमारे देश में 55 से 60% इसकी वैल्यू रहती है प्राइवेट फाइनल कंजम्पशन एक्सपेंडिचर की, and it is directly related to this wage growth. If the wage growth will reduce, let's say our wages will reduce, our consumption expenditure would be reduced, that would have a direct impact on GDP, and we cannot afford that impact on GDP. Why? Because अभी कोविड पैंडेमिक से हम रिकवर कर रहे हैं and we want our GDP numbers to grow. Second thing that is very, very important is, let's say in most of, let's say in Europe, their GDP depends more on export expenditure. Their numbers depend more on export expenditure. But we don't depend on these exports as much we do on private final consumption expenditure. That is why we are risk prone to certain recessions that have come in that part of the world. We have remained, we can say, immune to certain extent, and it has been possible due to this. We are dependent more on this as compared to exports. They are more dependent on exports. We are not much dependent on exports if we have to talk about majority part of our GDP. Plus, we have been more fiscal prudence in our approach after COVID pandemic. That can be seen that India has not been that much affected if we talk about the situation that is recently there in USA or UK. हम थोड़ा इम्यून हैं, एक तो वजह है ये और एक वजह रही है due to our fiscal prudence policies. So this is very, very important guys. These type of questions come in prelims. It can only be attempted by you guys if you have a clarity related to GDP numbers and related to all these concepts. I hope I am clear to everyone. चलो जी. Now we will move towards the last topic of our session. Ban on export of broken rice. It's a very, very simple topic. You just need to remember the facts. Recently, India has banned exports of broken rice and imposed a 20% duty on the exports of non-basmati rice. We have done two things. एक तो broken rice के ऊपर ban लगा दिया export के ऊपर, and we have imposed 20% duty on non-basmati rice. India is the world's biggest exporter of rice, which accounts for more than 40% of global rice shipments. India एक बहुत बड़ा exporter है rice का, and India के बावजूद, exporter होने के बावजूद, government has suddenly come up with this ban. Why government has come up with this ban? Let's try to understand. And before that, we will try to understand what is the significance of broken rice. So these type of questions come in statement based questions when I talk about prelims. Let's look at the significance. It is used in the manufacture of feed for very young animals. Further, it is used for all types of livestock. It is used in the brewing industry, where it is mixed with barley and result in the production of arrack, which is an alcoholic drink, distilled and colorless drink. So it has some applications in brewing industry, used for livestock, and it is used as a manufacturer of feed for very young animals. Plus, it is a rice raw material for rice flour, used in baby food, breakfast cereals, rice wine, rice liquors, sake, and pre-packaged and canned foods. So broken rice has its very much a significance in terms of these values that we have just discussed. Now, let's talk about why did the government ban the export. First of all, the broken rice exports have increased 42 times. This is very, very important during April to August 2022 as compared to the same time during the period of 2019. China was the top buyer. Now this is very, very important. So first thing is that we had an unusual rise in exports, and China was the most, we can say, buyer of our broken rice. Paucity in domestic market. Broken rice is also not available either for poultry feed or for ethanol. So we had something like, we can say, there was paucity in domestic market. Third thing, rise in global demand. There has been rise in global demand for broken rice due to a geopolitical scenario which has impacted price movement of commodities. Fourth thing is decline in domestic production. See, there is decline in production in the country of broken rice, and we are exporting it. So it's going to create shortage where? In our own country, and we have seen that livestock depends mostly on this broken rice. So we cannot afford to be exporting the rice, broken rice, when it is already in shortage during this Kharif season. As a result, government banned the export, and 20% of duty was applied on non-basmati rice. So guys, this was it from the economics, we can say, weekly session. These were the four major most important articles or the news that appeared in the newspapers, and we tried to discuss that. I hope you have liked the session, and if you have any doubt, you can write in the comment box. Thank you for your support, and we will meet next time. Thank you.